Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do technical analysis on uranium, do our daily technicals. Some of them kind of falling out a little bit. Other ones, maybe they're putting in tops. We'll see. We'll look at the charts. I'll give you my financial opinion. Please don't use it as advice. But we'll jump right in here. We'll look at the charts, see what we got. So here's the physical metal. Doesn't look too bad. I didn't see what it did today. Could have came under pressure. But we're moving back and forth, chopping around, getting some volatility. We've got Uranium on the weekly candlestick basis. We still have not broken through this resistance line. It is a strong one. We started the week strong, but finished weak. We didn't finish that strong. Looking at the dailies, we are scrunching on up right into this kind of corner, depending on how you draw it. You could draw it straight across. You'd say we broke out and we're just kind of pausing here that we could potentially break to the upside. And it's still in the cards to break to the upside. But we are, if you look at this, kind of scrunching up here. And most of the time, I would say that there's a high likelihood that we could break down too. I mean, I don't know which way this thing's going to break, but I think either way is a valid viewpoint to have, because I'll show you what's coming up in some of these other charts where some of them are already kind of breaking down to the downside. We've got Camco, which is jammed up in the corner here. We're jammed up in this corner where all of this pressure is coming to. It's just like when we were jammed up in this corner here. You could draw the same pattern here. We jammed up to a corner and broke to the downside. We're jamming back up to this corner again, and we could break to the downside or upside. We're in that corner. Next Gen Energy is looking a little bit weak. It's kind of breaking to the downside here out of its pattern. And then we've got Fission breaking to the downside as well, as this was right up in the corner and broke to the downside. So these two look weak and bearish to me. Sky Harbor is still holding on by tooth floss, barely. Canalaska is looking a little weak. It's looking like it's wanting to break out to the downside here. And Standard Uranium's looking weak. We've had this sell-off kind of down and out of here. We were going to come bounce back up. We bounced back up, and then we got sold off again. There's sellers there. Baseload still holding on, but for how long? We'll see. We've got Asian Court bouncing back and forth. It still looks good. Pier Point looks like we tried to move on up today. We got a black candlestick. That means we opened high and closed a little bit lower throughout the day, which means the momentum is still to the downside, even though we had an up day. Now, UEX Corp is falling out the bottom here, guys. What's going on? What the heck is going on with UEXCF? Okay. We're coming on down. Looks like it's in pullback mode. That's kind of what it looks like to me. We came through this kind of support line and we finished strong to the downside. So there could be more downside here. DNN looks like it's trying to move on up, but by looking at the candlesticks, it looks like it wants to break to the downside. So watch out there too. UU looks like it's getting a little bit tired. Looks a little bit toppy. And so does UEC. Getting a little bit toppy. We're getting these wicks at the top here. Whenever you get this wick at the top, it wants to pull back some. Is it going to be a big pullback? I don't know. Can't tell you every single move, but it's looking a little toppy. URG is also looking a little toppy. A little bit more selling pressure today. Looks like it could pull back. Uranium Royalty Corp still holding in its pattern. I don't know which way this thing's going to break, but if we keep going sideways, it'll probably roll over. Get a little bit more of a pullback. Let me see here. Maybe it's a shoulder hedge. Nah, it's all jacked up. The lines there. Encore Energy, every time it tries to move up, we're getting these black candlesticks. It sells off throughout the day. So it opens high, sells off throughout the day. Usually what that means is someone's offloading some shares. They pre-gap it in the morning and then offload shares throughout the day. It could head lower. if we see some more selling pressure. The sellers are there. Bannerman just moving sideways, doesn't look horrible, doesn't look great. We've got deep yellow. We broke out to the upside of deep yellow, so this one doesn't look too bad, but again, the entire sector, little washy in some areas, especially the Canadian miners. The African ones look okay. Looks like we're holding up okay. Forces is looking all right. I wish we had some larger up days. We have two big down days, two small up days. But over here, we've got two large up days and some small ones. We'll see how this resolves itself. But it looks, sometimes you can pull back with that type of setup. Again, we're playing with statistics, not for sure outcomes. Goviax is still in its corner here. Doesn't know which way it wants to go. And then Global Atomic, usually, this is what I see here. I think we're going to head lower based off this black candlestick. We tried to run today, and then the sellers came in and sold it back off. And now the momentum's to the downside a little bit. We could pull back here. International Consolidated Uranium tried to run a little bit, got a little wick at the top. There's still sellers up there. We're right in the corner up there. And Kazatomprom's got this black candlestick. We're in this corner, jammed up in it, where we lead to a black candlestick. Usually that means we could potentially head lower, but we've got a bullish engulfing right before it. Difficult to say which way this guy's going to break. Laramide, you've got that black candlestick with the wick at the top. There's sellers up here. They continue to sell their shares whenever we get into this area. We may have to rest a little bit. Sideways to lower, maybe. Paladin Energy, same thing. These black candlesticks, they're coming up. Usually you get these black ones. Well, there's some black ones here, but we broke out up through it. It really depends what the buyers do here. If they step in and push this stuff higher, that's great. But the sellers, they're leaving the door open for the sellers to sell this off and get a little bit of a pullback. I mean, Penn MF is in the same situation as Paladin Energy. Boss Energy, we've got these black candlesticks. They open up and close down. Momentum's heading lower. It's leaving the door for the sellers to push it lower if they want to. Centrus, well, that's just moving on up. You got some candlesticks at the top, or the wicks at the top here. It's probably running out of a little bit of steam here. And then we got Lightbridge, nice big short squeeze here. Maybe it'll slow down here a little bit, but you never know. Got Blue Sky Uranium, nice big up move coming on sideways. Doesn't look too bad from a bigger overall perspective picture. Looking at the other sector, other companies in the sector, they're looking a little bit weak. So I'm kind of looking at this a little bit from the weak side too. ISO Energy looks like it wants to pull back. It's part of the Canadian crew that's pulling back. And FISOF, Vision 3.0, that one looks okay at the moment. That one looks pretty good. But overall, guys, in this sector, it does show some weakness. We're seeing it across some of these companies. Is it going to spread to the entire sector? We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't want to draw conclusions yet. I'm going to remain open. We're right up on that resistance line for URNM. But I am noticing that some of these companies are breaking their patterns to the downside. Some have broken to the upside. So it's a split. We're split. The American crew is broken to the upside. The Canadian crew is breaking to the downside. And the African crew is still confused about where it wants to go. That sums it up right there. Would I be buying in this sector at this moment? Probably not. I'd be waiting to see where this thing heads. I don't know which way this thing's going. You've got the sector split. The American crew's up. Canadian crew is weakening. And then we got the African crew that's just kind of sitting there. Indifferent. So what I'm going to be is I'm going to be like the African crew. I'm going to be indifferent about the sector at the moment. I mean, I know this is going to go higher long term. Short term is what I'm talking about here. Only short term. Higher going up. Medium term, long term, it's going way higher. Way higher. No doubt there. Short term, to add money in for me, I'm going to be a little bit hesitant and just wait and see if we can get a little bit larger pullback. maybe if we get it in the Canadian sector and everything else goes up, I'll add some more in some of the Canadian companies. I mean, maybe that's what I'll end up doing. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.